Conservation opportunities on the Fox River in King County, Illinois. Hi, Ryan, and turning this over to you.
Thanks, Cindy. A lot of friendly faces out here. Good presentation so far today. It's fun to be a part of this. So I was here last year. I presented on our update of our feasibility study. Can everybody hear me in the back? Sweet. So presented last year. What was going on with this study? We had just picked it back up. It had been on ice since 2015. So we kicked it back into gear. We've been working feverishly. Federal government doesn't move very fast, but we're doing our best. We really are. So we've already heard a little bit about the 519 authority today. Tom mentioned it a little bit earlier, but that's the authority that this study is being done under. And it's overall restoration for the Illinois River Basin. So that's where we get our authority from Congress to do this work. The overarching study objectives are to restore riverine habitat and connectivity for fish and wildlife. And the non-federal sponsors, the Corps can't do any work on our own. So we always work with a non-federal sponsor. It's super important for us, gives us local buy-in. They also provide real estate and cost share funding. So the non-federal sponsors for this project are the Illinois DNR and the Fox River Study Group. And we always say, the Fox River Study Group especially has been just an awesome non-federal sponsor, getting the word out, spreading the good word, good local connections, and it's been really awesome for this study. So the need here for this study is we have degraded habitat, as many of you know, on the Fox River, and we have a lot of disruption to the connectivity and also, quite frankly, poor water quality in many areas. So next I'm going to talk about the schedule, where we're at. So last year when I was here, we were getting ready to release our tentatively selected plan. Since then, we've released that. We got buy-in from our vertical chain up at division and headquarters. And then in September, as many of you know, I see a lot of faces out here, folks that were at these meetings, we started our public review period. That went from September through November. It was 60 days where we heard comments from state, federal, and local agencies, and most importantly from the public. So we hosted those public meetings. I'm not going to belabor that right now because I'll talk about it more in a few slides. But we had that public review period. After we got all of those comments from the agencies and the public, we went back to our vertical team and we said, here's the comments we heard, here's the concerns, here's how we plan to respond to those, and how we're going to address all of those concerns in our report. So that was our in-progress review, which was in January of this year. And now we're in the middle working on a few more things, and we're hoping to have a final report in October. We'll send that up and hopefully it gets approved in January with, I know, one more report, the director's report, hopefully in March of 2025. So let's go back to that tentatively selected plan. A lot of you were at those public meetings or are familiar with it now, but that plan involves removal of 9 dams, starting at the Carpentersville Dam, going south to Montgomery. There's a lot of benefits that we hope to realize by removing those dams. A lot of habitat units. More importantly, over 1,300 acres of riverine habitat over the course of 22 miles. And overall, the study area, if all of these dams came out, it would reconnect 46 miles of unobstructed river, which would be really awesome. That's just the main stem though. It would open up over 600 miles of tributaries. And that can't be understated. Those tributaries are super important for a lot of fish that like to move up into those tributaries for spawning and other life history stuff. The overall cost, just under $20 million. That may seem like a big price tag. It's not something just to wave your hand at, but for the benefits that we would realize, it's incredible. So hopefully we can continue to move forward and realize those benefits at that relatively low cost. So let's talk a little bit more about the public and agency comment period. The study area is pretty large, so we wanted to make sure that everyone in the public had equal opportunity to attend those meetings, provide those comments. So we hosted 3 public meetings, one on the north end of the study area in Elgin, St. Charles in the middle, and Aurora to the south. We estimate there was over 700 people in attendance. Not everybody signed in, so we don't have an exact number, but they were well attended, to say the least. We also received over 1,000 email comments to the project inbox. Now, majority of those comments were actually in support of the project, voicing the excitement for the potential benefits. But we heard a lot of concerns as well. And those concerns, many of them are well-founded, some of them aren't. But we're working to address those, and they'll be addressed in the main report. So I want to go over a couple of themes, and not validating these. Some are, as I said, valid, some aren't, but it's important that we receive those comments and acknowledge them. So I'm going to go through the main concerns that we heard, and then I'm going to talk about some of the themes of support we heard. I'm hoping to leave a little bit of time at the end. I'm not going to elaborate too much on the concerns or the support that we heard, but I welcome questions at the end, hopefully. So we heard a lot of concerns about changes to recreational opportunities on the river. Okay, people are concerned about loss of power boating, water skiing, and a few other recreation types that require that deeper or that really slow-moving, stagnant water. We also heard a lot of concerns about decreases in property value. People are worried that once they don't have that impoundment anymore, their property values are going to plummet and nobody's going to want to buy their house. We also heard a lot of concerns about negative impacts to wildlife, bald eagles, fish, and then concerns about aesthetics. So when that pool's gone, some people just love the look of that impoundment. Other people are concerned about these stinky mud flats that are going to be there when the dam is removed. And some people just like things to look the way they look now, and they don't like change. We also heard concerns about infrastructure. So whether that's impacts to drinking water intakes, those are real concerns. We needed to hear those, and we're addressing those. And potential impacts to bridge piers, stormwater outfalls, all kinds of different infrastructure that was built around that impoundment existing on the river. Heard a lot of concerns about sediment, whether that's contamination or how that sediment's going to move in the river system after the dams are removed. Heard concerns about impacts to flooding and water level changes, and then how that affects the shoreline. What's the shoreline going to look like afterwards? Heard concerns about economic losses to communities who think that people come to their community because they love the impoundment, and without that impoundment, people wouldn't come to their communities anymore and spend money. As a federal agency, for any action we do, we are required to comply with NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act. And we heard a lot of folks that were voicing concerns about the way that we're complying with NEPA. And lastly, people wanted to know, are my municipal leaders involved with this study? Are you communicating with them? What are their concerns? Are they involved with the process? I'm going to move on to a lot of the themes of public support that we heard. Like I said, a lot of the comments we heard were in support. And even at those public meetings, it was contentious, the temperature was high, but it was really awesome that a lot of people, and you people in this room, attended those meetings and got the good word out too. So the messaging wasn't all bad. It's really important that people like you attended and provided that support. So some of the things that people are excited about if we were to move through and remove these dams are the improved water quality. That's huge. The things that our study is mostly focused around are the ecological benefits. So fish and wildlife habitat improvements, but also that connectivity from pool to pool and into those tributaries for fish. There's also just the restoration of riverine and ecosystem processes. So that sediment we talked about, it's actually important that that sediment keeps moving through the river and doesn't get stuck behind individual dams. Some people are really excited about aesthetics. So some people love the impoundment. Other people love a free-flowing river. That's just awesome. I skipped life safety there. Cindy mentioned drownings that have happened. Not saying the river wouldn't continue to pose a risk to people, but the dams are a serious risk to life safety. So we wouldn't be dealing with that anymore. Some people are excited about the contaminant cleanup. So some of the sediment in the river might be dirty, and we'd have to clean that up before we could remove the dams and just release any contaminated sediment. So certainly a benefit. And then lastly, the recreation opportunities. So there'd be more connectivity for people paddling the river. You wouldn't have to get out and go carry your kayak down Main Street and try to find a new place to put in. You could just paddle down the river. And then fly fishing opportunities. And here, this is the Rusty Rodeo Roundup, where I think it's Kane County and some of the local park districts get together and catch crayfish. And I was out there with my kids. They loved it. It's an awesome learning opportunity. And this is in a free-flowing stretch of the river. So there'd be more opportunities like that. Lastly, the look ahead. So right now we're taking that tentatively selected plan. We're adjusting it to respond to these public and agency comments and finalizing it into the recommended plan. We're also going to be seeking non-binding letters of intent from non-federal sponsors saying, hey, we like what's going on here. We want to continue to be involved in the study and have the opportunity to participate if this actually goes through and gets approved. So we're hoping for that report approval in early 2025, which would signify the end of our feasibility study. And then that's when we would look to Congress for additional funding and look to execute those project partnership agreements with those that own the dams. And then we'd move into plans and specifications in 2016 and hopefully award some of these in 2027. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Are you getting any buy-in yet from the communities along the way?
Yeah, yep. So I'd say so far what we've heard is all of the municipalities. So there's differences and nuances with which municipalities own their dam and which ones are state-owned. So different municipalities have a different role in the decision-making process. But in general, nobody has told us absolutely not. We are not considering moving forward with removal. A lot of them are considering other options for sure.
For private homeowners, commune owners, what happens to the newly created land?
Yeah, that's a great question. We heard that a lot. So in Illinois, property ownership goes to the thread of the stream, the center of the stream. So whether riparian landowners are aware, their property actually extends out into the river, and there's a public easement over any part of their land where water flows. So during a flood, if the water goes up to the foundation of your house, people can canoe right up to your house. So as the waters recede after the dam's removed, those landowners would get additional property. Well, they wouldn't get additional property. They would have access to their property without that public easement over it, and they'd be free to do what they want with that property.
What is it about the Algonquin Dam that takes it off the list?
There's a couple things. So as I mentioned, the Corps can't do anything without the support of a non-federal sponsor, and the DNR, as one of our non-federal sponsors, doesn't support removal of that dam. And so we can't proceed with that one.
Do you see more or less flooding?
Yeah, so these are run-of-the-river dams. They're kind of like a bathtub. You think of the faucet going in. When that bathtub's overflowing, it goes out. So if you turn that faucet on more, you just have more water going over the top. So the dams don't provide any flood control. There'd be no changes downstream. And I say this very hesitantly, tentatively, but in the upstream areas, as that impoundment's drawn down, future floodwaters would have more area to spread out in that floodplain that's no longer impounded.
Did you look at any of the dams in terms, I know you probably have, in terms of their repair or repair costs, and how many of those dams are in a situation where they need a lot of money for repair?
Yeah, so they are almost all in different states of repair or disrepair. Quite frankly, for the purposes of our study, the condition of the dam didn't play a role in our plan formulation and our decision-making process. It could be a brand new dam that's shiny and beautiful, and it's still impairing that riverine habitat and blocking that connectivity. So the actual conditions of the dam, I think, would be more important if they were to stay and who were to own and operate those in the future. So that information's out there, but it wasn't super important for our plan formulation. Thank you.